Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer. This is our weekly webinar here at Doman International, where parents with children with special needs from around the world join us and ask us their biggest and most important questions. And we do urge parents to bring us their biggest questions. I'm joined by my colleague, Colleen Hudson, who's the Director of Representatives at Doman International. She's the first person to speak to new parents when they contact our organization. And so thanks for joining me, Colleen.
Absolutely. Happy Chili Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got, for those of you who are not in Philadelphia, which is the vast majority of you, we've got a nice bit of snow on the ground, which is nice. Well, today is a special day that we have each month, which is called Victory Day, where we share the successes of children with special needs on the Doman Method program. And so I have a little presentation to show everyone with pictures and videos of the kids. It's a great opportunity to talk about the program and see the kind of real life changes that children have on the program. So give me one moment and I'm going to share my screen. All right. Colleen, can you see the slide now up on your screen?
Yes, we see the slide as it should be. And it changed.
Good. All right. So first we have Octavio, and Octavio is 2 years old and has a diagnosis of Down syndrome. So before the Doman Method, when Octavio first began the program, he was, a curious, loving child, and he understood things like familiar people from his family, mom, dad, his brother. He knew animals, body parts, everyday words. And this was very much because his parents, from a very young age, were teaching him and stimulating him. So using a lot of the principles of the Doman Method, even before they came to Doman International. He could follow simple one-step instructions. He could use some baby signs to communicate his needs in meaningful ways. Now, before the Doman Method, before coming for his first appointment to Doman International, his parents had started to teach him words. So they knew about the Doman Method reading program and started it even before they came to our clinic. Octavio enjoyed pictures, and he could do things like match pictures of animals, which again, very impressive for his age, and all had to do with that early stimulation he was given by his family. But he had just started a Doman reading program when he came for his first appointment with Doman International, and so that was all new to him, which makes sense for a child his age. In walking, before he started the Doman Method or before he came to Doman International, he had started taking his first steps. And because of poor balance, he walked quickly, but with his arms held up. He would kind of hold his arms up just in case he had to catch himself when he fell. So his body still, his brain had to learn a lot about balance and coordination. Well, since he started Doman International's program, Octavio has made remarkable progress in terms of his brain development. So first of all, he received a reading victory. So now his parents don't just teach him pictures. He also has been shown hundreds of words and word pairs with the Doman Method reading program, and he's clearly understanding them, right? When he was evaluated, during his Doman International evaluation, he showed the ability to recognize his words. I'm going to come back to that video in a second because it relates to something else I'm going to say. So during his evaluation, he immediately and accurately identified multiple sets of words and couplets without any hesitation. It was just clear. He knew what the words were. He recognized them. He's reading despite being 2 years old. His responses were confident and spontaneous. So it really helped his family know, okay, Octavio is getting all these words that we're teaching him with the reading program. In terms of his understanding has grown beautifully. He is now more social and engaged. He greets others. His listening skills now are very strong, and he's, which means his ability to follow instructions is better. But he's also much more observant. With all the stimulation he's received, he now notices airplanes in the sky, trains in the distance. That also means his vision is quite good. And he's interested in all the things around him, but he's not overwhelmed like some kids would be. I mentioned he is better at following instructions. So now he follows two-step instructions. That's very age appropriate for a 2-year-old. He cleans up his toys when he's asked once. That's really good. I know a lot of 2-year-olds that don't do that. I know a lot of 5-year-olds that don't do that. And he cooperates happily in routines. He understands sequences, right? So that means he understands the order of events. And he also can make deals with parents. Like, if they say, oh, we want you to do this, he'll kind of make it clear. I'll do that if I get this. Again, very age appropriate for a 2-year-old. Octavio also shows memory and reasoning. He can even understand questions about things like yesterday and today. So he understands that yesterday is the day before today. That's more of a 3-year-old level. So Octavio is actually showing an understanding of time concepts, which is beyond his age level. Again, I'm sure this is because of all of the intense stimulation and Doman Method teaching his family has been doing, which is amazing. So I want to go back now and show a video of Octavio. And this video is special for a few reasons. First of all, you can see his improved balance. But more than that, you're going to see just how connected he is, how good his comprehension is, how good his speech development is. His speech has continued to grow. His vocabulary has grown with the Doman Method, and it's quite impressive. And for those of you who know children or adults with Down syndrome, concerns about cognitive development and speech development are some of the biggest concerns that parents are told to have by professionals. Professionals will often say your child will never be able to understand at age level or read or do all of these things Octavio is doing. So in this video, you're going to hear him using his speech to communicate and really demonstrate his high level of intelligence. He speaks in Spanish, so I might stop it at certain points just to translate what he said. So, I meant to pause it. It didn't pause. Yeah, so there he said mas, which means more, and then he said si, which means yes.
We couldn't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it again.
No, I was hoping that maybe it was just me. I turned the volume up, but no, we cannot hear him.
Okay, let me try something, Colleen, because we had this problem last month, and I hoped it was a fluke. Let me try sharing the screen in a different way, and we'll see if it works better.
Okay.
Tell me if you hear it now, Colleen.
No.
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 Oh, what a disappointment.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. All right, I'll try one other thing.
He looks, you can tell he knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
Even from his expression.
All right, tell me if you hear it now.
Yes.
Can you hear? You can hear it?
Yep.
Yes.
Now we can hear it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
¿Cierto? ¿Pero se acabó? Ya no hay, mira, ¿qué color es este?
So now mom is asking, what color is this?
¿Qué color es? Azul.
And he said azul, which means blue in Spanish, right? So again, 2 years old, that means he understood mom's question, he knows colors, and he said the answer.
Mira, Octavio, ¿qué es esto?
Mom is asking, what's this?
Huevo, bien.
And he said huevo, which means egg in Spanish.
¿Qué es? Agua, bien.
She said, what's this? And he said water.
Toma. Pero tómalo tú.
Rojo. Eso, bien.
And there he was mimicking mom saying red. So yeah, so you can see just how bright and connected Octavio is.
Clear as a bell for 2 years and a few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any kid.
Exactly, right. Okay. Do you see the slides changing,
Yes, I
Colleen?
do. Yes.
Oh, good. All right. Maybe we will get everything now. We'll see. All right. So in terms of his walking, Octavio's walking has been transformed from early walking with his arms held high, right? We talked about when he started the Doman Method, his hands had to be up. He was using his arms in a balance roll, meaning he was using them to balance and to catch himself if he fell. Now he's walking quickly with confidence. And that means his arms can stay down. He loves walking up and down hills, running downhill, and he can walk up to 20 minutes nonstop now, which is really good stamina. Again, if you just think about an average 2-year-old, even though 2-year-olds move a lot of 2-year-olds, it would be a challenge to motivate them to walk for 20 minutes without stopping. So it just shows you his resilience, his stamina. This is the kind of thing I can say this after many years of working with children of this age. It's only the kind of thing that you could do with consistency with a child of this age. Even more impressive, he likes to walk on more challenging terrain. So, for example, instead of walking on just a flat surface, he'd prefer to walk on hills or on uneven surfaces, like walking at a park. He tends to prefer the challenge in that. So we've got a video here of Octavio walking. You can see his arms are down.
Muy bien, Octavio. Ahora de...
So very, very good. Well done for Octavio and for his family. What a great success. And I think for many parents out there with children with Down syndrome who are just constantly given bad prognoses and told about what their children will never do, Octavio is a great example of even at a young age, these children can really be doing exceptional things. So next we have Otto. Otto is 6 years old, and Otto has a diagnosis of paraventricular leukomalacia. Before the Doman program, his movement was incredibly limited. He could crawl on his belly, but he had to be prompted and encouraged by his parents, meaning he wasn't really moving on his own for his own needs. He needed an adult to be there, encouraging him and getting him to do it. And while he did show some signs of curiosity, his actions were more reactive than self-initiating, meaning he wasn't really exploring his environment. He wasn't really going out to find things in his house. He was just being reactive to what people in his environment were doing. So now that Otto has began the program, he's an explorer. He's full of curiosity and purpose. He crawls all around his house now independently. His parents don't even have to encourage him. He'll do it on his own. He kind of investigates every part of the house. He doesn't need to be prompted. He moves with intention. So that really shows improved motivation, stamina, and cognition. He wants to interact more with his environment around him. Parents now have a very different problem from before. Before, he would just stay in one place. Now he's exploring his house, and they have to kind of find him. Now it's like a game of hide and seek with the amount he's moving. And parents really say that this new independence has filled the home with a lot of joy and pride, right? Because, sometimes parents will say something to me like, we really feel like our child is a member of our family now. And of course, when they say that, they don't mean that the child wasn't a member of their family. They always were. But what they mean is now, we're really getting to know who he is as a human. We know what he wants now. He tells us. He's he's more connected. He's a part of conversations. That's a really meaningful thing for a family. It's a life-changing win for a child. And so now that the fact that Otto is curious and wants to know what's going on in his house is a big deal. So we've got a video here of Otto, and he's you'll see him doing a bit of his crawling, unprompted and exploring.
Muito bem, que arraso. Vem pelo meio do tapete, vem.
And you can see here, he's using his arms primarily to pull himself forward. Takes a lot of strength, right, for an immobile child.
Cadê o pé para ajudar esse arraste
to be
aí?
able to crawl.
Cadê o pé para ajudar esse arraste?
Now, with each bit of movement that he is doing, not only is he moving independently, right? The difference between a child being immobile and being able to crawl around their house is a huge difference, right? I mean, imagine being stuck in a place compared to being able to navigate your home. It's a huge life change. But also keep in mind, every time he uses his arms to pull himself forward, he's improving the connection between the muscles and his brain, right? And so that's going to allow him to use those arms in so many ways, perhaps to pull himself up to a standing position, right? He's going to be able to use his arms more now to grasp objects, because now his brain's control over his arms, motor control, is going to be much better. Okay, let's keep watching him crawl.
Vem na força do cotovelo.
Mom is talking to him in Portuguese. You can see how happy he is.
Meu amor, até a cozinha.
He's enjoying this. This for him is not
Conta pra mim.
is not a burden.
O que você quer?
Now
É
he's
assim que o lobo
teasing
mal faz
Mom, he's
para
playing
sobrar a
with
casa dos porquinhos? É? Você quer a história do lobo mal ou do tigre? Qual que você quer? Ah, do tigre.
And even though I don't personally understand a lot of Portuguese, you get the sense Mom is playing with him. They're kind of teasing each other back and forth. You can see that joy that Otto's independence is bringing the entire family. In addition to his crawling, he now has better motor planning and coordination. And he's now showing problem-solving skills, right? So, for example, if there are obstacles in his path, he's figuring how to get over them, how to get around them. So that's really helping his problem-solving ability, right? So really, we're seeing improved cognitive engagement, interest in his environment around him. So his joy in movement has really become self-motivated. And I think for any parent, it's quite apparent how important it is for a child not to need to be motivated to do everything. And for us, when children start to realize they're successful, they become motivated, right? So sometimes for a child like Otto, when they begin to crawl for the first time, it's difficult work. And sometimes children are not incredibly motivated because it's hard, right? Kids tend to shy away from things that are hard, just like all humans do. But once they start to gain success, they realize, hey, I'm moving myself. They become self-motivated. And you just have to be able to reach that point of success for the child to realize what they can do. So this is a huge, huge moment for Otto in his independence and in his life. Okay, well, I always like to say when we do Victory Day, first of all, thank you so much for the parents who, agreed for us to share their children's stories. That means a lot. We don't handpick the children. They're just the parents who agreed for us to share videos and photos of their kids. So every month it's a little different. Some months we have adults featured. We have different diagnoses every month, which is great. And again, thank you to the parents who were willing for us to share their kids' stories. Well, now we can open things up to questions. I see that we have a lot of people who have joined us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. So no matter where you're watching us, if you type your question into the comments box, we will get to them in order. So go ahead and start typing your questions in. They can be questions about anything, the Doman Method. If you've started a program with your child, questions about the program you're doing, questions about our clinic, questions about parenting. We're happy to take on anything. So Colleen, while we're waiting for questions, do you mind just talking a little bit about the Doman International Clinic? What are, I know that sometimes we're booking out appointments even 6 weeks in advance. So do you know what does availability look like?
So we're in an interesting period right now because we have a number of trips coming up. So it's good to be aware of those, obviously. We are typically scheduling out 6 to 8 weeks in advance. So the first thing I want to say is if anyone is watching this thinking, oh, we're considering an appointment this year, please get in touch with us sooner rather than later. One of the things we like to do if a family is confirming an appointment even further out than 6 to 8 weeks is we get you on the schedule right away because the spaces go. Sometimes families don't realize that we try to keep a certain number of appointments each week so that we're really, for initial families, so that we're really focused on you and your child. You're not coming into a clinic with like 20 other families, okay? So when we can reserve that space for you, even if it's several months in advance, it's a big advantage because you've got your spot. You can start making plans, for travel or whatever, but also we can begin to coach you and teach you. There are a lot of factors in the Doman Method. We cover every area of a child's development. So parent education is key, and we spend time ahead of time with recorded lectures that will explain the Doman Method. Our staff can then answer questions. You can keep coming to this session to start the week with Spencer. We've had that happen many times where families who are preparing for their appointment join and ask questions, in real time, which is fun. But yeah, so please don't wait. If you're thinking, oh, maybe in the spring or summer we'll come for an appointment, get in touch with me now so we can start talking about it. Because the worst thing is when someone calls a month in advance thinking that it's enough time, and then they find out that there are no spaces available for their preferred date. That's a bummer, and I hate saying no. And we always have waiting lists. We'll put you on a waiting list, but the truth is, people really do try to make their appointment, so cancellations aren't all that frequent. So yeah, please, ahead of time is better than waiting. So our staff will be in Italy next week for almost 2 weeks. That's our 4 times a year travel. We're in Italy again in April. We are scheduling appointments for April at our campus near Pisa. And then for Philadelphia, we have appointments available. Oh yeah, February already booked up. Wow, sorry, I feel like I blinked. We do have some remote appointments available in February. So if anyone is watching thinking, oh, that was exactly what I wanted, was a remote appointment, get in touch with me. And then we do have spaces available in March, but we will be in Serbia in March, although no, I think we may still, if anyone here is from the Balkans, get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with our Balkans representative. And then we'll be in Miami, right? In February, at the very end of February.
28th, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. And those appointments, we do live evaluations, and then you go home and we do your program coaching remotely. So, we have a lot of different options for various needs, but those are our travel things coming up.
Yeah, especially if you're interested in coming to our European Center well, the next 2 weeks might be challenging, but if you're planning to come in April, please be aware that the number of appointments is very limited. We just have a high demand for April. A lot of people want to come to Italy in the spring, I guess. So if you're interested in coming to Europe in April, please contact us as soon as possible. All right. Well, I've gotten my first question here from Josipa, who's asking about Hannah. Josipa is saying, I wanted to ask about the facilitated communication board. Is it better to use a tablet for communication? And what type for an autistic nonverbal child who is able to read and understand, but not so good with motor planning? So I'll just give a quick explanation for parents who are newer. So at Doman International, we have many different communication programs, but one of the programs that we use is something called facilitated communication. It wasn't created by us, but my grandfather, Glenn Doman, learned about it in the mid-90s and incorporated it into the program. And it's a program that involves a letter board where a child types onto the letter board, communicating their thoughts, ideas, what they'd like. We have a more simple communication program, which is called the choice board. That's what we usually begin with. And then if children demonstrate an ability to answer on a choice board, which is basically different options written on a board, the child will point to what they want. So imagine you ask a child, what do you want to do right now? Play, listen to music, read a book. So you give them different options and they'll point to read a book and you read them a book. It's like that. It's a simple but very powerful program. And then a facilitated communication involves typing on a letter board or on a keyboard. And Josipa, there's no answer that is right for all children. Some children do best on a keyboard, and some children do best on a paper letter board. Usually when we begin on a letter board on paper, because it's more forgiving, right? Imagine if a child is typing and they're not perfectly accurate. Some children, when they're typing on a keyboard on a computer, they'll miss a letter, they'll type the wrong letter, it appears on the screen. That can really frustrate the child. So sometimes beginning on a letter board is the best way to get started because it's more forgiving. So let's say the child is typing apple and they type A and then they go to P, but they miss the P and they hit, the L, which is right next to it. But parent can kind of figure out from the context, they were aiming for P. They were just a little bit off. So yeah, often starting on a letter board is best. And then if that's successful, we will then transition to a keyboard. The most challenging is a tablet screen because the touch screen is very sensitive. So even if a child, let's say another part of their hand hits the screen, sometimes it'll register a letter they don't want. So usually, I'm not saying that touchscreens aren't good. We have many children that do communicate on touchscreens, but it's usually, I'll try the letter board first, make sure the child is doing very well with that before transitioning to using a touchscreen. Okay. And for anyone who's come to Doman International for an appointment, a part of coming for the appointment experience, besides us teaching you the treatment program for the child, is you also get access to certain advanced courses. And so I'm going to take a guess that you've already watched the advanced course on facilitated communication. If you have not, I would recommend that you reach out to your staff coach and just say, hey, Spencer recommended I watch the advanced course on facilitated communication. Can you send it to me? Because I think it would be nice just for you to see the context behind the program of facilitated communication. But I'm going to guess by your question, you've already seen it. Great. Okay, let's see. Again, if you're joining right now on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you can type your questions into the comments box, and yeah, we'll get to them in order. Colleen, you mentioned that that probably February is booked out. In terms of March or April, do you know when appointments are available in Philadelphia?
Yes, I do. Let me just pull that up real quick. So March, we have March 9th.
March 9th. Mm-hmm.
And we have, March 9th is a good time. And then we have one space available for March 16th in Philadelphia.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mentioned the choice board before, and I want to just show a video of the choice board just so that people get an idea of what we're talking about. I do see we got a nice comment here from Maria who says, FC has been a real game changer for us. My daughter types complex ideas, and now we finally realize how intelligent she is.
Yes.
Right. So when a child is able to communicate their thoughts and ideas, it enriches their life first and foremost because they can say what they want. They can say, oh, I want this for dinner, or I'd like to do this tomorrow, or, pass this message on to grandma when you speak to them to grandma on the phone. They can tell you things like that. And that's incredibly meaningful. And then there's the other side of it, which is once everyone in the family sees how bright the child is, they really realize, oh, we can now interact with our child in a completely different way. We can explain things to them. We can use a larger and more enriched vocabulary. We can stimulate them in new ways to help them reach new heights of understanding. So, Maria, I'm really, I'm grateful that you included that comment, and because I think for a lot of parents who don't know about these kinds of communication programs, they may not realize exactly what they're missing. All right, let me show the choice board, which is kind of our first communication program that we use with many children. Let's see. All right, perfect. Now, Colleen, you'll have to tell me if this plays. Do you see it playing?
It is playing.
Ah, fantastic. Okay, let me just tell everyone what you're about to see in this video. So this is a little girl named Alessandra, little girl from Italy, and her mom is asking her a question. And you can see here there's a board in front of her, and the word "sì" is written on one side, which means yes in Italian, and on the other side it says no, which I think everyone can guess what that means. It's a yes or no choice board. It's one of the simplest kinds of choice boards that you can use. This isn't the only kind of choice board, but it's one of the common ones. And what you're going to see in this video, I'm going to tell you what you're going to see before so you can kind of contextualize it. Mom is going to ask her a question, and I think she's asking her, do you want to take a nap? And what she's going to do is she's going to, after asking the question, she's going to take little Ale's hand and point to the yes and say yes. And then she's going to point to no and say no. So she reads the choices out loud for little Ale. And then you're going to see Mom hold Ale's hand above the board and wait for Ale to point herself. Okay, so Ale is going to point to her answer. So let's give it a watch and then we can talk about it.
Andrea, ascolta, vuoi fare la nonna adesso? Sì o no? Sì, hai sonno, amore, vero?
Colleen, could you hear the audio as well?
Yes, we could hear it all.
Great. Okay. So, so she asked her, do you want to take a nap? Yes or no? And then she placed Alessandra's hand in the middle of the board and waited patiently. And that's a very important part. You might have even been waiting, like, is something going to happen? Is something going to happen? And that's because Alessandra, because she had a profound brain injury as a baby, she has something which is called a response time delay, which basically means when she decides she wants to do something because of her brain injury, there's a response time delay of how quickly her brain can coordinate her motor answer, right? So she thinks, yes, I'm tired, but for her to essentially get her brain to get her muscles to do what she wants them to do, there's a response time delay. And first of all, you can imagine that's a very frustrating thing to deal with in life, but especially with communication, because if you have a response time delay, imagine if mom asked her, are you tired right now? And after 3 seconds, mom said, oh, she's not answering. I give up. Alessandra would never have had the chance to answer, right? Because she needs about, in this video, I counted it, it's about 8 seconds that she needs to get her hand to do what she wants it to do. And so that's an important thing to understand. When you're working with a child with a neurodevelopmental issue, you have to be patient. And you have to, if you're going to do a program like this, you have to ask a question and sometimes sit there for 15 seconds, 20 seconds before they can deliver an answer. And you could see when Alessandra answered, it was clear she was answering. Again, I'm going to go back just so you can watch that answer again.
Sì, hai sonno, amore, vero?
So you can see she moves that little hand over, and she even kind of scratches the paper to show, yes, this is what I want. And just keep in mind, for a child with a motor challenge, moving their arm across the body is much more difficult usually than moving away from the body. It has to do with the two hemispheres of the brain. Moving across the body requires the two hemispheres to work together, and some children, because of their brain injury, have a lot of difficulty with that. So for her to answer yes is actually more difficult than for her to answer no. So she answered the more tough question, right? Now, this is very important because in this video, Alessandra, as I said, had suffered a profound brain injury. When she started the Doman method, she was blind because of her brain injury. She could not see. And she actually started communicating with the choice board before she could see. And you might be thinking, how would she answer on the choice board if she can't see? It's because she could hear what the choices were. So mom could say to her, are you hungry? Yes or no. And even without seeing, Alessandra could hear the answers and know where to point to get what she wanted. And so with a visual stimulation program, after joining our program, we were able to get Alessandra seeing. So actually, when you watch this video, Alessandra is already able to see. You can even see there, she's kind of looking from the corner of her eye at the paper. But when she started the program, she was functionally blind, could not see a thing. So this really helped parents know, okay, our young child who has limited vision, very limited speech, is actually far more intelligent than we ever realized. So the choice board is the first communication program we start with most children. And then once we've taught a child to read, then we will often advance to a letter board. Now, sometimes a letter board, meaning all the letters of the alphabet and the child types. Now, this is not a replacement for speech. You know, sometimes people will see this and say, oh, so you've given up on speech development. Absolutely not, just the opposite. These programs are meant to be a bridge until the child is able to use their speech to communicate. And so we have speech development programs that are focused on that, but this is meant to be a bridge. And that it is important to have that because it's, in my opinion, a human right to be able to communicate what you're thinking and feeling. And also, by the way, just allowing children to communicate their feelings and ideas and thoughts, very good for their overall happiness, their behavior and cooperation. Once they know they're being listened to and heard, that makes a big difference in their well-being. And it's also important for their cognitive development because it allows them to start having back and forth with others. So all kinds of important progress comes as the result of this program. All right, I will stop sharing my screen, but that's the choice board. All right, we've got some more comments here. We've got a comment here from Motika who says, Happy New Year. I'm writing to inform you of the progress my daughter is making. I once complained here that she was crawling backwards and you advised me on what to do. She started crawling forward and is now creeping. Thanks so much. That is amazing.
Wow.
Now, Motika, I have a guess. I vaguely remember talking to you. Do you mind just typing in the comments what you did? So that way, because I can tell you what I think I told you to do and what you did, but it'd be nice for the other parents to hear from you. But congratulations. That's amazing. Amazing. I mean, first of all, crawling and creeping are such important steps on the pathway to walking. So now that she's crawled, and is learning to creep, her chances of walking have skyrocketed. Because some children who move in abnormal forms, like crawling backwards, or children who begin rolling, or children that sit all the time, it just greatly reduces their chances of ever walking. So the fact that she's mastered crawling, is beginning to creep, is just so important. And then there are all kinds of important progresses that will come in other areas because of the crawling and creeping. So when children crawl and creep, we see improvements in their vision. They become more visually connected. Their auditory processing usually improves. So they become more aware of their surroundings. Their understanding gets better. Their tactile processing gets better. So they feel their body better. They start moving their body better. So there's so many different ways that that crawling and creeping helps. All right, Virginia is agreeing. Surely there is nothing impossible. Well done. That's exactly right. All right, let's see. All right, we've got some comments on Instagram. And I've got a comment here. Colleen, you might remember this better than me. One parent is asking, do you have any update on FH deficiency, please? Do you recall that coming up in past sessions, Colleen? I don't.
I do not, but I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I see the FH deficiency. I have not heard of that before. Now, keep in mind, in our work at Doman International, we work with hundreds, or perhaps even at this point, thousands of different genetic diagnoses and metabolic conditions and brain injuries. So I'm seeing here that FH deficiency is a rare genetic disorder affecting the Krebs cycle, causing severe brain issues, including encephalopathy and developmental delay. So that was just a quick search that I did. So what I will say is, even though FH deficiency is the name is new, we do have a database at Doman International to look up rare diagnoses of children on our program. And that can be incredibly helpful because if you can imagine, we've been doing this for decades and have seen hundreds or maybe now thousands of different diagnoses. Sometimes a parent will come in through the door and they'll say, hey, my child has this diagnosis. And I say, I don't remember it. But when I look it up in the database, it's like, oh yeah, we saw a child 8 years ago with that. And this is all the progress they had. So that's we should look it up in the database. Mm-hmm. But the second thing that I'll say is, based on just my quick research here, yeah, the Doman method can absolutely help with, children who have developmental delay because of an injury to the brain. Absolutely. Encephalopathy. We have many children who have joined our program with encephalopathy. So I don't see anything that would say this child isn't a candidate for the program. Keep in mind, we're talking about a genetic diagnosis that has a metabolic condition attached to it. But what I will say is, even though we cannot change a child's genes, a person's genome, right? Their genetic material is not the sole deciding factor of how we function, right? Our genes interact with our environment. And in fact, there's a whole field of study called epigenetics, which is the study of how our environment affects how our genes, are basically realized in our function. And so, like, just to give everyone a simple example, if someone eats an unhealthy diet and if they don't engage in exercise, certain genes will start to turn on, be expressed, that are more likely to create cancer, right, or diabetes. So those genes were already in that person, but some genes are turned on and expressed, and about 80% of our genes are turned off in what is called junk DNA. It's not a good name for it, but most of the genes in your body just sit there unexpressed. But based on what you do every day can impact which genes are expressed and turned on and which ones are silenced and turned off. And so we often see with children with genetic diagnoses, huge changes in their brain development once they begin the program. I might have mentioned this on a recent episode, but I was talking to a family recently. Their child has something, a syndrome called Cohen syndrome. It's a very rare genetic condition. And the parents were telling me how their child is involved in research, and they were told by the researchers, your child is just completely different from all the other kids in this research study. All the other kids we're seeing with the same syndrome, are either not walking or their balance is poor, they're not talking. Your child is walking, running, speaking, is cooperative, is cognitively functioning at age level. So so any kind of genetic condition can greatly be impacted, improved, or made worse by the amount of stimulation, the lifestyle of the person. So please reach out to Colleen. I'll put up Colleen's contact information. Colleen, any additional thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, just that it is not luck. It's not luck. And I think that more and more, as testing becomes more sophisticated and ubiquitous, right, that more families can access genetic testing because they're told by their physician, oh, it would be good for us to have this information. But then once they have the information, the parents are told, well, there isn't anything we can do about that because only 2 other children in the world have ever been diagnosed with it. That's just not true in our experience of 70 years. So just because your kid's condition has a name now and they're saying, oh, we have no experience with this, does not mean that there haven't been other children with that exact same issue, but it just didn't have a name. And it also doesn't mean that there isn't some hope for them. So I think that that's really important for parents to realize, if your gut is telling you, I don't believe that there's nothing that can be done, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Trust your gut. Don't listen, because look, doctors and researchers and things, they have to be very focused on that problem and think about, oh, well, we can't tell you what to do because we don't know and we're learning. But as you said, Spencer, this one child with Cohen syndrome she's the outlier in that study because of what her parents have been doing, not because of luck, not because she has mild Cohen or whatever. I mean,
Right.
She has
right,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I was speaking with the family, and they made a comment to me. We have a staff member, Dr. Tamara Cohen, who's one of our clinicians, and they said, "Oh, our child has Cohen syndrome, but it's nice to finally meet a Cohen who can help our child." My grandfather, Glenn Doman, used to often joke, we have all these syndromes named after researchers. Like Cohen syndrome, I'm sure, is named after the researcher who discovered it, right, for the first time. But he said even when he sometimes had the chance to meet these people that had syndromes named after them, they would just say, oh, the children are hopeless. And it's like, oh, so he used to say, you're the world's leading expert in not knowing what to do to help these children, yeah. Which was his way of saying they're stupid and not doing everything they can do to help these kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality, unfortunately, for a lot of kids with genetic diagnoses. And the truth is, if most of the world isn't looking for answers for these children, they're never going to find it if you're not looking for it. Yeah. And my grandfather, when he started his work in the 1950s, actually didn't accept children with genetic disorders or conditions onto the program because his whole feeling was, I don't know if I can help them. And he never wanted to be accused of misleading parents or making false promises. And it wasn't until a doctor in Brazil, Dr. Raimundo Veras, who had a child on the program himself, started to do the program. He said to my grandfather, hey, why don't I try to do the program with children with Down syndrome? And my grandfather said, yeah, I've avoided that for this reason. And he said, listen, let me try it out. And if it doesn't work, I'll be the bad one, not you. And my grandfather said, well, if you're going to be brave, go ahead and do it. And the children just did amazingly well. And for everyone who was watching the the Victory Day presentation I did at the beginning, I showed Octavio, a 2-year-old who's reading with Down syndrome and talking and doing all kinds of exceptional things. Keep in mind, most of the world that works with children with Down syndrome will just tell you these children will just have lifelong cognitive issues, that there's, just put them in special education and, just love them and give them a decent quality of life. But what's the point of trying to stimulate them? That's the attitude. And we've known for 60 years that's nonsense.
Exactly. I think parents also are told that it's the luck of the draw. That because there are enough people, who have lived now with a diagnosis of Down syndrome, trisomy 21, who have done very well. But because nobody's really studying exactly why that is, I mean, we know how that happens. Now, maybe they didn't know about us and do our program, but we know people who say, my parents were very engaged. They absolutely did, in spirit, they did all of this because they knew that my upbringing needed to be extra, and so now I'm a higher functioning person because of that. But I think more families are told, well, it's such a range and your child may end up being in the luckier category or may not. But as you said, Spencer, just love them and all that. You don't need to tell parents to love their kids. It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Love them, make them comfortable. That for parents, that comes with the job description. They're going to do that regardless.
Yeah.
All right. Ella says, my 4.5-month-old has rediscovered his thumb. Unfortunately, now whenever I put him on the track, he does not move at all. He wants to suck his thumb. What should I do? And then Ella added another question. Can you please tell us how long it takes on average for a child to start crawling when he uses the track every day? Okay. So let's start with your second question first. So, it does depend on the child. Some children within a matter of weeks will crawl down the incline track. Other children, depending on different factors, how heavy they are, how hard it is for them to move their limbs, their motivation, it will change. My first thoughts, especially because we're talking about a baby here, 4.5-month-old, my first piece of advice would be to consider increasing the incline. Now, you didn't make any comment here, Ella, about the incline. I'm presuming you're inclining the track to allow gravity to help him crawl down. But that's really, really important. And sometimes you have to increase the incline to make it easier for the child to crawl down it. So that's my first thought. In terms of, and in terms of a child who's maybe constantly putting their finger in their mouth, you could try to just kind of gently take it out, motivate him to keep moving, offer him other toys, something else that he has to move a little bit for to reach. Another thing, Ella, if you can imagine from a baby's perspective, if you put them at the very top of the track, right, and they have to crawl all the way down, sometimes that seems very far for them. So one of the best things to do is actually put your baby close to the bottom of the track. The bottom meaning if it's on an incline, maybe you put your child here and all they have to do is crawl a few centimeters to get that toy that they want. And then when they can do that consistently, then you start to begin the sessions higher and higher up on the track. So they begin only having to move short distances. They gain success. Like I was saying before, children become more motivated the more successful they are. So yeah, I'd say the two best things, increase the incline and put him lower on the track. The other thing is that he might be, of course, he's 4.5 months old. And so sucking on his thumb is very age appropriate. But you may also want to do some tactile stimulation, like using different textures, rough and soft textures on the hands might be helpful. All right. Let's see what other questions we've got here. Yeah. So we have a comment here. My child has a Rett-like syndrome. Yeah, we've been working with children with Rett syndrome for 60 or 70 years. And in fact, there's even a research paper that my grandfather, Glenn Doman, wrote with one of his close friends, Ralph Pelligra, about children with Rett syndrome on the program. So yeah, we've been working with kids with Rett syndrome. I think they specifically wrote a paper on how children with Rett syndrome benefit from the oxygenation program, the Doman oxygenation program. So you're in the right place. I definitely recommend, both for the parent who asked about FH deficiency and also Rett syndrome, any kind of genetic issue or neurodevelopmental delay, the program can be really, really helpful. I recommend, I'll put Colleen's contact information back up on the screen. You can reach out to Colleen by emailing her at info@domaninternational.org, and there's her cell phone number. Should parents text you, Colleen? Should they send you a WhatsApp?
They can text or WhatsApp. Obviously we're talking to families all over the world, so WhatsApp is a good way. Or you can text me, or give me a call. Because of my schedule, sometimes I can pick up the phone in the moment, but sometimes I'm on another call. So it's usually best to message me, and then if I can call you immediately, I will. Or we can plan a time to talk. But I definitely don't want to miss you. So yeah, please do. And info is my direct email. I had a mom ask me the other day, she's like, oh, I didn't want to send it to the general box. I said, no, that is me. I don't have any other email. It's the only one. So yeah. I said, I am info.
So I also, the mom who asked about Rett syndrome is asking what Doman method is suitable for my child. So I highly recommend this book, The Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness. This is our first book about the Doman Method. It gives this is the first book we recommend to parents to read about the Doman Method who have children with special needs. It has a lot of practical recommendations in it. And as I said, I'd also recommend you jump on a call with Colleen. Colleen can give you other resources for the program.
For sure.
We've got a comment here. Probably we have time for one or two more questions. Mermaid in Fresh Water on Instagram says, I so agree with everything you've said. All these diseases, even with FH, has its spectrum, and epigenetics has a great effect on this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Soumya is asking, hi, my kid tightens his jaws and body muscles periodically, lasts 5 to 10 seconds, many times a day. How can I eliminate this to keep him relaxed all of the time? Soumya, that's a really good question. And never having seen a video of this, I can only speculate, right? So one possibility, and I just have to mention it, are seizures. I'm not saying based on this that this is a seizure, but whenever I hear about muscles, tensing, that is something I do have to mention. And about 40% of the children we see at Doman International have a seizure history when they join the program. Of course, we work to prevent and stop seizures, hopefully without the use of drugs. And we can often do that with our oxygenation and nutrition programs. So that's my first concern. It could be other things. We could be talking about some kind of muscle spasm. We could be talking about a child who's dealing with some discomfort in some part of their body and the manifestation of that. I know children, for example, with gut issues, and they get very tense because they're dealing with, gut discomfort. And sometimes our nutrition program has to really focus on, especially if we're dealing with a child, for example, with constipation and stomach pain. Our nutrition program is focused on how do we help that child become regular and relieve their gut issues. So it could be any one of those things, Soumya. And if you've, I believe you have, if you've come to Doman International in the past, I do recommend reaching out to your staff coach about it and sending a video of it, because I think it would be worthwhile. For what would happen is the staff coach would bring that video to the nutrition team or to other members of the clinical team, and they'd provide you with recommendations on what we think it is and what we would recommend in terms of next steps, further testing, and the best treatments for your child. All right, I think we've got one more question here from Josipa, who's asking, when crawling, do we need to correct it if it's not perfect and coordinated? Thank you so much. It's nice to hear all of this info. So Josipa, usually we say no, because most children on the Doman Method, we do a program called patterning to teach them how to crawl in a correct way. There are some exceptions. Sometimes with children who are older and have more motor control, we will teach the child through instruction how to crawl in a proper cross pattern. But that is a question, Josipa, I would bring to your staff coach. And because what they'll do is they'll go to whoever taught Hannah's physical program at your last appointment at our clinic. It's best for them to tell you what to do, because they have a better sense of where Hannah is in her physical progress. And they'll be able to give a better, more personalized recommendation than I could. But it's a very good question. Very good question. All right, everyone. Well, we are all out of time. We'll be back here next week at the same time. We're always here, so come bring your questions. Yeah, Colleen, any last thoughts?
Yeah, just get in touch. You know, it's the beginning of the year, and we're just so happy that, you know, so many families are working with us now. It's the dream to let everybody know. I say to parents all the time when I talk to them, we know that, you know, it might not be the right thing for every single family, or maybe the timing isn't just right yet, but we know that we can help so many kids. And if you know about us, then we're halfway there.
Exactly right. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.